All right. Ready to dive deep into something we all use every day but rarely actually understand?
I'm ready.
Today, it's the money system.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is. And, you sent us this fascinating document.
Yeah.
It claims to, expose the inner workings of this system. And honestly,
Yeah.
some of this stuff is really eye-opening.
It's a complex system for sure.
Yeah.
What gets me is how much it all comes down to human psychology.
Yeah.
Our belief in money.
It's all like a shared delusion in a way.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay.
This document starts off with a bombshell.
Really?
It says only about 3% of the money in the UK is actually physical cash,
Oh, wow.
printed by the government.
That's tiny.
It is. The rest, a whopping 97%, is created by, wait for it,
Okay, I'm like,
commercial banks.
commercial banks.
Commercial banks.
Wow, okay, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So that tiny 3% of physical cash, that's actually where the Bank of England makes its profit.
Right.
They sell those notes to commercial banks at face value,
Uh-huh.
even though they only cost a few pence to produce.
I see.
It's called seigniorage.
Seniorage.
Yeah, and over the past decade, it's made about £18 billion for the UK Treasury.
18 billion just for printing money? That's incredible.
Right. Now, that's what I call a money-making scheme.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But seriously, if the government's only responsible for 3% of the money supply,
right.
where's the rest coming from?
The rest, the 97%, is created through this process called fractional reserve banking.
Okay, fractional reserve banking.
Yeah. Basically, banks only need to hold a fraction of their deposits in reserve,
Okay.
and they can lend out the rest.
So someone deposits money into the bank.
Yeah.
The bank keeps a small portion in reserve
Uh-huh.
and then lends out the rest to someone else.
Exactly.
And that borrowed money then gets spent and deposited back into the system, allowing for even more lending
Right.
and thus even more money creation.
It's a cycle,
Yeah.
expanding the money supply with every loan issued.
But here's the catch.
Uh-oh, what's the catch?
This whole system is built on debt.
Debt.
For every pound created through lending,
Yeah.
there's a pound of debt attached to it.
So our entire economy is basically built on a mountain of IOUs.
Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
And that's why this document brings up these huge questions about sustainability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can a system that relies on ever-increasing debt
Yeah.
actually be viable in the long run?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What happens when people can no longer take on more debt?
That's a really unsettling thought.
It is. And it gets even more unsettling when you consider the power dynamics here.
Oh.
This document argues that this whole system gives banks enormous influence over the economy.
I can see that.
It's like they get to decide where all this newly created money flows.
Right, they have a lot of control.
Yeah. The document highlights how banks have historically favored certain types of lending, like mortgages, over, say, loans to small businesses.
Interesting.
And this has huge consequences.
Oh, I bet.
Things like housing bubbles and inflated property prices.
Makes sense.
And let's be real, we've all felt the impact of this.
Yeah.
Think about how difficult it can be to get a mortgage these days.
Yeah.
Or how expensive housing has become in a lot of areas.
It's crazy.
It all ties back to these banking practices.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it's a system that can create winners and losers.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've got money being created out of thin air by banks.
Right.
An economy built on a mountain of debt.
Yeah.
And a system that seems to favor some groups over others.
Uh-huh.
So where do we go from here?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Is there any way out of this debt-fueled spiral?
Well, the document explores a few alternative approaches.
Okay, I'm all ears.
But before we get into those, I think it's important to understand the full scope of the problem.
Okay, I'm ready to keep digging.
All right, let's do it.
One of the key points the document makes is this distinction between speculative investments and productive investments.
All right, break that down for me.
So speculative investments are like bets on future price movements.
I see.
Think currency trading.
Okay.
Or stock market speculation.
Right, so making money off of money.
Exactly. Productive investments.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that create actual goods and services.
Okay.
Like building factories.
Right.
Developing new technology. Or investing in education.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
So things that benefit society.
Yes. One is about making money off of money. The other is about creating something tangible that actually benefits society.
I like that distinction.
And this document argues that our current system is heavily skewed towards speculation.
Interesting.
It points to the massive scale of the global currency market.
Oh, yes.
Where trillions of dollars are traded.
Every day.
Every single day.
Wow.
Dwarfing the value of all the goods and services produced globally in an entire year.
That really puts things into perspective.
Right. It's like we're more focused on gambling with money than actually using it to build a better world.
That's a thought-provoking way to put it.
And the document criticizes governments for not doing enough to, like, rein in this speculative frenzy.
Yeah, I can see that.
And for often prioritizing the interests of, big banks over those of everyday people.
That's a problem.
Like, I'm remembering all those bailouts during the financial crisis.
Oh.
It's like the banks get to play with fire, and when things inevitably blow up, taxpayers are left holding the bag.
Yeah, it seems to happen over and over.
And the document even challenges this common belief.
What belief?
That governments have complete control over the money supply.
Interesting.
It seems like in reality, banks wield a lot of power.
More than we realize?
Yeah, often dictating the terms of the game.
So where does that leave us?
Yeah, are we just pawns in this financial chess game at the mercy of forces we can't control?
Not necessarily.
Good.
The first step towards change is awareness.
Okay.
The more we understand how these systems work, the better equipped we are to question them, challenge them, and advocate for alternatives.
Okay, I'm ready to explore those alternatives.
Okay.
What does this document propose?
It mentions a few interesting possibilities.
Okay.
But the most compelling one, I think, is this idea of backing currencies with something, tangible, essential.
Yeah, like what, gold? We talked about that before, but it seems a bit outdated now.
Gold has its fans, for sure.
Yeah.
But this document proposes something even more, radical.
Okay, babe.
Backing currencies with renewable energy.
Whoa, wait. Yeah. So instead of like dollars or pounds, we'd be talking about kilowatt hours.
Exactly.
That's a wild concept.
It is, right.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where the value of money is directly tied to the amount of clean energy we have.
Okay.
It would completely change our relationship with energy. Incentivize huge investments in, renewable infrastructure.
Okay. I'm starting to see how that could be like a total game changer.
It would be massive.
But how would that even work? Like practically?
Right.
Wouldn't that be super complex to implement?
It would be a huge undertaking, definitely. Yeah. It would require global cooperation on a scale we haven't really seen before.
Right.
Countries would need to agree on, like a standardized unit of energy, develop ways to manage exchange rates,
right,
ensure price stability.
Yeah.
There would be a ton of challenges for sure.
But the potential rewards, though, they seem pretty incredible.
They do.
If we could pull it off, we'd be aligning our whole financial system with the long-term health of the planet.
Exactly.
That's a pretty powerful vision.
It is.
It really makes you think about what we truly value.
It does.
What kind of future we want to create.
Big questions.
Yeah, they are.
But important ones.
Okay, now I'm curious about those other alternatives you mentioned.
Right.
What else is out there? Any other ideas for, like, reforming the current system?
There are a bunch of proposals, actually, ranging from, more moderate reforms to complete overhauls.
Okay.
Some economists, they want stricter regulations on banks.
Okay.
Limiting their ability to create money through lending.
Right.
And engaging in those risky speculative activities.
Putting some guardrails on the system.
Exactly. Preventing it from spiraling out of control.
Makes sense.
Others propose, more radical solutions.
Yeah.
Shifting the power of money creation back to governments.
Whoa, okay.
Essentially cutting out commercial banks as the primary issuers of currency.
That sounds like a huge shift.
It would be.
What would the implications of that even be?
Well, those who support sovereign money creation, they argue it'd give governments more control over the economy. Allow them to direct investments towards, public goods and social programs without having to rely on debt-based financing.
That's an interesting idea, but wouldn't it also give governments a ton of power?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah, power can be a dangerous thing.
It can, especially when it comes to money.
Exactly.
Any system that concentrates power, really, whether it's banks, governments, requires careful consideration, strong checks and balances, a lot of transparency, accountability.
So it's not just about changing the system.
Right.
It's about making sure that new system is designed in a way that prevents abuses of power.
Exactly.
Prioritizes the well-being of everyone.
It's about finding a system that serves the people.
Yeah.
Not just a select few.
This document also gets into, the global implications of our current debt-based system.
Right.
It doesn't paint a very pretty picture of how wealthy countries often exert their power over developing nations through these debt burdens imposed by international institutions.
It's a legacy of colonialism, really unequal power dynamics.
And it's still going on today.
Sadly, yes.
A lot of developing countries are trapped in this vicious cycle of debt.
It's tough.
Forced to prioritize repayment to wealthy lenders.
Right.
Over investing in their own people, infrastructure.
It's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, it's a system that seems designed to, perpetuate inequality.
Yeah.
Keep developing countries dependent on aid, loans.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
From richer nations.
It's complex with no easy answers.
Yeah.
But this document highlights some potential ways forward.
Like what?
Debt forgiveness. Fairer trade practices, greater representation for developing countries within those international institutions.
It's a massive undertaking, but we clearly need a more equitable, sustainable global financial system.
Absolutely.
If we're going to tackle things like poverty, inequality, climate change.
Oh, connected.
We can't solve them in isolation.
No.
We need a holistic approach.
I agree.
That recognizes how interconnected our world is.
Right.
And prioritizes, cooperation over competition.
Definitely.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From how money is created to the power dynamics of the current system, the potential for alternatives, the need for a more just global financial order.
Big stuff.
My head is spinning, but in a good way.
I know what you mean.
It's like I'm seeing the world through a new lens now.
That's the power of knowledge, critical thinking.
Yeah.
The more we understand these systems, the more empowered we are to, challenge them, create a better future.
Throughout this whole conversation, I've been wrestling with this feeling of overwhelm, to be honest.
I get it.
It all seems so complex, daunting. What can, regular people even do? In the face of these massive global forces.
I get that. I really do.
Yeah.
It can feel that way. But here's the thing.
Okay.
These huge, complex systems, they're ultimately made up of individual choices, actions.
Yeah. Okay.
We often feel powerless, right, when faced with these big structures, but we forget. They're built and maintained by people.
By us.
Just like us.
So you're saying even small changes in our own behavior can have a wider impact.
They can ripple outwards, contribute to bigger shifts.
So it all starts with awareness then, which I guess we're doing now.
Yeah, having this conversation.
But beyond just talking about it, what can people actually do?
Well, for one, be mindful of where your money goes.
Okay.
Choose banks and financial institutions that align with your values.
Right.
That prioritize, ethical lending practices.
Right.
Invest in sustainable projects.
So ditch the mega banks.
Basically.
The ones that put profit over everything else.
Exactly.
Okay.
Look for smaller banks, credit unions.
Yeah.
Even community-based initiatives.
Right.
You could also look into alternative currencies, local exchange trading systems, LETS.
I've heard of those, but I don't really know how they work.
They operate outside the traditional banking system.
Is it like bartering then?
It can be, but there are lots of different models.
Okay.
The key is they let communities create their own systems of exchange.
So it's about taking back some control.
Exactly, fostering local economic resilience, reducing reliance on those dominant financial structures.
That's really interesting.
And don't underestimate the power of just talking about these issues with friends, family, your community. Raising awareness, sparking conversations that can shift the collective consciousness, create momentum for change.
We're not just passive bystanders.
We have agency.
We can make choices.
We can advocate for change.
Build a better world.
Starting right where we are.
In our own community. This deep dive.
Yeah.
It's taken us through.
I know, right?
Some complex, unsettling territory.
It has.
But I'm walking away feeling empowered, not despairing.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's opened my eyes to the flaws in the system, for sure.
It's important to see those.
But it's also given me hope.
Yeah.
That there are other ways forward.
There are, absolutely.
The future isn't, set in stone.
It's shaped by our choices.
The choices we make today.
Exactly.
The more we understand these systems, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions.
And push for a financial world that works for everyone.
Yes, not just a select few.
That's the goal.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
Thank you so much for guiding us through it all.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, if this conversation has sparked your curiosity,
definitely.
we encourage you to, dig deeper, do your own research.
There are tons of resources out there.
Get involved.
Absolutely.
There are so many organizations working for change. Communities coming together.
To build a better future.
A more just, sustainable financial world.
That's what we need.
Until next time. Keep diving deep.
Keep those conversations going.
And remember, the power to change the system.
Yes.
It lies within each of us.